On tonight's episode of Obscured Reality, join us as we take a step back in time to the 1970s in Southern California and take a look at some UFO incidents that happened, seen by very credible people, police and civilians alike. Let's find out what happened and if there's any relation to today's sightings. Sit down, sit back, relax, and join us on our journey through Obscured Reality.
Welcome to another episode of Obscured Reality. Join your hosts, Mark and Stephanie, as they take you through a journey of the extraordinary, bizarre, and often frightening world of the unknown. Explore topics of the paranormal, UFOs, alien abduction, lost civilizations, mythical monsters, and other unexplained mysteries. Come along with us as we transcend into another dimension of obscured reality.
Welcome back to Obscured Reality. We are your hosts, Mark and Stevie. How's it going?
It's going great.
Good to hear. Celsius on tap, man. 3 cases on sale on Prime Day. Loving it.
I just got back into drinking coffee at home again. I've been on vacation, so I haven't been able to get my daily Starbucks, and I think it's been a wonderful thing because now I don't crave it anymore.
Yeah. Hey, nothing wrong with that. You know, I started doing my own cold brew a long time ago, a couple of years ago. It's easy, man. You buy this simple jug on Amazon. It's like $20, has a filter in it. You get like the heaviest, like dark roast, the strongest, whatever. I forgot what it's called, but they're super oily. And then I just get a grinder, right? And you grind it up super fine. And then you just put it in the filter. You fill the whole thing up with water, put the grounds in the filter, put the filter in, just shake it up. Then I have a separate thermos, so I keep that full. So I just keep refilling that. Dude, it's great. And you use something like, for me, I don't do straight black coffee. So I'll use some of the, the Coffee Mate creamer. I'll use the hazelnut is my favorite. And if you don't put too much in, so it's not too sweet, because I like a bite,
Yeah.
But if you put like the perfect amount in, it almost tastes like peanut butter coffee. It's fucking great. It's great. I love peanut butter.
That sounds fucking delicious.
It is, and it's easy. Hey, you gotta get your ass out here. Try some. It's good.
We're in regards to that. I have an update for you.
After the show. After the show.
Next year.
Okay. Yeah.
It's literally
we'll talk
the
about
update.
that later. Well, you want to play our typical game? Want to guess what's on the agenda for tonight?
Oh man. I don't know. You've been throwing me some curveballs lately, so
Have I? I mean, it's all been UAP related.
It's true, but for a while you were on a Bigfoot kick, so.
Well, I was trying to switch it up, but things kept coming up with this whole, congressional
Congress
hearings.
Thing. Yeah.
All these things keep happening. So, well, tonight we're gonna not switch it up. We're gonna keep it on UAPs. Because I came across cool. I was looking for something in our area. It's something I've been searching for a good 8 months now. I found it years and years and years ago. An article, I mentioned it to you before, of the Southern California area. How back in like the 40s, 50s, 60s, somewhere around there. I don't recall exactly when. People were seeing a ton of odd, just strange lights off the coast. And people would go out there. It was such a big thing. There was an article in the newspaper back then about it. And people were literally going out there daily and nightly, just lining up on the coastline to watch and see if they could get a glimpse of whatever was going on,
Right.
And so I was looking for that. I still cannot find it. And I'd originally heard it in a video, and I don't recall what it was. But I came
Mm-hmm.
across something else from the area of Southern California, and I started reading about it, and it was kind of interesting. Um, so yeah, this is UFOs in Southern California. This
Mm-hmm.
is from this how all happened March 24th, 1977. So a long time ago. That's part of the reason I picked this
Well,
one for
damn.
tonight. Yeah, this is why I picked this one for tonight. Part of the reason, because of the age,
46 years, if
1977.
my math is correct.
Well, Lazar's story 89. That was about 35 years ago. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, about
Hmm.
45 ish, give or take, whatever.
Interesting.
I'm not doing math right now, but the age is important, and as we get into it, and we go through this story,
Yeah.
you'll
46. Yeah.
see very easily, I think, and very quickly, the type of people that were witnesses to what was going on.
Mm.
Very credible people by
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
most people's standards, because,
Mm.
it's all about credibility and they're going to judge. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, then these are very credible people. You'll see that very quick. And
Mm.
there's a lot of them. And this wasn't one area. So we'll get into it and you'll see what's going on here. It's the main thing is the age,
Mm.
1977. Remember, the stuff these things were doing, they were doing back then. So
All
you
right.
have to question, did we possibly have a breakthrough in technology back then? Would it even have been possible versus now? It just goes to show
Mm-hmm.
the age of these things still happened 45 years ago, exactly the same as today. So, wet your whistle. Here we go. March 24th, 1977. So, police, sheriff's deputies, highway patrol officers, and Air Force guards reported a rash of sightings of unidentified flying objects in Southern California, at least 7 in 9 hours. Okay. The law
Hmm.
enforcement officers reported mysterious bright lights that hovered, cruised, and zoomed in the skies over Los Angeles, Orange County, Ventura, Riverside County, and San Bernardino counties. If you're familiar with the area,
That's
that's
a lot of
a
space.
very wide span.
Isn't San
Okay,
Bernardino County like the largest county in California?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know,
That
but
fucker is
yeah.
huge.
So I'm in Orange County. You have Orange County.
Mm.
I'm gonna do this ass backwards for the camera, whatever. So you have Orange County here.
Mm.
LA's microphone's in the way. Orange County, LA's kind of up here, right above
San
it.
Bernardino.
They border, and
Mm.
then uh, you
San
have
Bernardino is like
Orange,
northeast.
and then you have I'm not going to go through all these counties, but you kind of have Riverside and San Bernardino over to the side, um, on top of each other, but not. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that they are not touching, but don't forget Ventura in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge span of land and sky.
Yeah, it
So
is.
all of the sightings were reported Monday night and early Tuesday. A Los Angeles sheriff's helicopter crew, so this would include Raymond Davis, 39, and Theodore Roach, 40. So both cops, right? They're both in the
Mm.
air unit. Los Angeles sheriffs. They said they were about 600 feet over La Mirada on Monday night when they observed two lights in the Whittier Hills area. They tried to follow them at 80 miles an hour, but the objects were faster. About 8 hours later, at 3:30 a.m. Tuesday, security guards at March Air Force Base in the desert, 50 miles east of Los Angeles, reported mysterious, brightly lighted objects in the sky. Nearby, two highway patrol officers, Robert Scholl and L. Orchard, they noted in their log, quote, a bright light with a vapor trail, end quote, that hovered over the Box Springs Canyon area north of the air base in Riverside County.
Mm.
At the same time, And about 50 miles to the west, Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies Lonnie Hicks, 28, and Robert Carr, 34, said they saw a bright light following another light through the sky over Firestone. A resident of the area called the sheriff's station to report the same objects. Deputies said, yeah. So you have
Said,
different
yeah.
times. Yeah, you have a couple different times when this is seen, which is hours and hours apart. And then you have a group where people like ridiculously far from each other are seeing
Yeah.
this. Law enforcement down here, law enforcement up here, civilians up here. They're all seeing it, and this is like 8 hours later. Let's see here. About 10 minutes later, and 12 miles to the south, Deputy John McSorley at the sheriff's helicopter station at Long Beach. Now, Long Beach is very close to Orange County. It's part of, I believe, LA County, but it's, it's touches. So he's at the helicopter station in Long Beach, reported 2 mysterious bright lights eastbound over the airfield. Another
He's
12
bound and
miles.
down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it was heading inland. Another 12 miles to the southwest. And 5 minutes later, 2 objects were reported by police in Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is not far from Long Beach. It goes Huntington Beach and then Seal Beach and then Long Beach. Obviously 12 miles. It's not far, but
5 minutes and 12 miles.
yeah, so it's clear that these things, number one, they're clearly moving around, and they're clearly odd. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be reporting this. And most of these are law enforcement reporting it. You know what airplanes look like. They knew then what airplanes looked like back then. They still had strobes and all that jazz. This was odd enough that numerous people, including law enforcement, mostly law enforcement, are thinking this is weird enough, I need to report it. So that it's a thing. So about this, so with that Huntington Beach, 5 minutes later, the Huntington Beach cops saw this. That's south of Long Beach. So the Long Beach cops said they were moving eastbound. Huntington Beach is south. So these clearly were moving inland and had to come down and probably back towards the coast a little bit.
Yeah.
So about the same time, Jesus Christ, about the same time, officers in Ventura County, which is not close, some 60 miles to the northwest, reported similar sightings. Now,
At the same time?
At the same time. Now, that's when it was reported. Now, you got to keep something in mind. This came across my head while I was reading this. I'm like, well, it seems from what I'm reading here that this is when these cops in Ventura reported it. But could they have seen it 5 minutes earlier and they're just now reporting it, right? So I don't know if there's an inconsistency right there. Possibly there may not be. So I don't know exactly what that means. Are they saying, boom, it was exactly this time and the Huntington Beach cops logged the time also, so now they're correlated, it was the same time? I don't know. However, with, say, the Huntington Beach sighting, all it says is 2 cops. Huntington Beach police reported seeing these 2 objects. There's nothing else on it. So it doesn't say like how long they were there, if they were moving, what was going on, if they just came through real quick and zipped away. If that happened, then you could easily have that in Ventura as well, right? So Sergeant Vincent Rupp, monitoring radio traffic at the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Station, said there were many radio reports of such sightings between 3:45 and 4 a.m. in Southern California, and some from as far away as Salinas and Sacramento, more than 350 miles to the north of this area.
Yeah, Sacramento is like a 5-6 hour drive. Like,
Yeah.
good God.
Yeah. So 350 miles. And
Yeah.
that's between 3:45 and 4 a.m. He was saying we got a lot of calls around then. So I'm just looking to see the times. Did we have a time? Yeah. So you remember I told you the first sightings, and then we
Mhm.
went to, this was the first ones where the helicopter tried to follow them
Yeah.
at about
Over
80
by the
miles an hour,
Whittaker.
and then
Yeah.
we jumped an 8 hour gap. So 8 hours later at
Mhm.
3:30 a.m.
Mhm.
So that's when all this stuff is being seen in this area, in the Orange County area, and now we jump to this guy monitoring, the sergeant monitoring radio traffic in Los Angeles, about all these reports 3:45 to 4 a.m. Um, and that there were reports as far away as Salinas and Sacramento at that time, 3:45 to 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So all the shit's being seen in Orange County and up around Sacramento at the same damn
Mhm.
time, like almost the same time. It
Mhm.
sounds to me like this thing's probably just like like making its rounds. It's kind of what I
Or
get from it. Or
or there was two
or
groups of two.
or three groups of two, or four groups of two, or 20
This is
groups of two.
true.
Who the fuck knows?
This is very true as
You
well.
know, I
There's
mean,
multiple groups of two. Let's just say that.
how do you even tell? Well, no, I
Mhm.
think it's one. I think it's probably one. I mean, I don't know.
Mhm.
It could be a million. Who knows? But uh, I don't know. Let's see. An
Mhm.
Air Force spokesman said nothing showed up on radar readings and no rocket or missile testings could have accounted for the strange lights. He said the Air Force would not investigate the matter further because, quote, the Air Force is no longer in the UFO investigating business, end quote. He said the Air Force stopped its investigation in 1969 when a study of the subject, Operation Blue Book, we've all heard about, concluded that UFOs were not a threat to national security. Quote, did not represent technological developments beyond the range of present day scientific knowledge, end quote, and did not likely come from outer space.
Hmm.
So that's the end
All
of
right
it.
then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of it. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
of course, the Air Force is going to shut up. I'm sure they were looking. That's the common theme right now, right?
Mhm.
They're the number one group that has been silent in all this UAP stuff going on. Imagine
Yes.
that. And they're probably, it seems as if they're probably the ones that have maybe the biggest involvement. That's the rumor. So, yeah, this is weird. I mean, this has started, the second set of sightings started around 3:30 a.m. So it's like 3:30
Mhm.
to 4, and then 3:45 to 4 you're getting sightings just
All the radio
everywhere within
traffic.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, within like a 350-mile radius. Like, holy crap. So I
Yeah.
mean, that goes to show you this most likely wasn't multiples. I have a feeling this is whatever was going on. This is probably the same thing moving around because we don't have a ton of detail on each of these
Mhm.
little incidents,
Right.
but most of them, they're all saying they're moving, they're going that way, blah, 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 blah. My guess is they're jumping around fast. I mean, we hear it with the sightings up until today that they're
Mhm.
like, as soon as someone tries to follow them or something, these things just
Take
gone,
off. Yeah.
you know? So,
I wonder when the sightings over by Sacramento were like versus like down south. Like, were they in the middle of all of them, or were they after? Were they like the 4 o'clockers?
mhm.
Like, just out of
you know,
curiosity, because I just kind of want to have like an idea of like the path in which they traveled during this time. But I know that would be absolutely
right.
impossible. But it
Well,
still is
I don't think
curious.
it matters. I
Ah,
understand what you're saying and
curiosity.
asking. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think it matters because between 3:45 and 4 a.m., a 15-minute
Mhm.
span, this guy was monitoring radio traffic and hearing it
Oh yeah.
all in Southern California, in Orange County and LA counties, Riverside, Ventura counties,
Mhm.
and in Sacramento and
Mhm.
Salinas. So
Yeah.
15 minutes, 350-mile distance.
I just want someone to
I
do the
don't.
math on how fast that is, to be
Yeah, I
completely
don't.
honest. I just
I
want
don't
someone to
give.
tell us how fast that is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't give two shits of what time it showed up in Sacramento. It was
I
between 15-minute range
Yeah.
everywhere. Like,
I simply am curious
wow.
because I would love to know how fast that is. Like,
Probably be easy to figure out. I mean, 15
see,
minutes.
I don't math very well. Like, the fact that I got 46 earlier was kind of impressive. But so I don't math. So that's why I really hope that someone's like,
If you
the
guys out
answer
there
is
math,
this.
comment that. We know it's stupid fast, right? I mean,
I know, but
you
still,
can't
it's
not.
just it's one of those things because like other like UAP incidents that we've like discussed, they've had like speed. Like someone's done the math and figured out the speed, and it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting because it's like Jesus Christ, especially when you
yeah,
compare it to like the speed of sound. It's just like it blows it away, and it's like
yeah,
whoa. I
yeah,
don't know. And then obviously these are silent ships; they're not showing up on radar. Like if that's indeed what it is, not putting words in anyone's mouth. But that's just mind-boggling and blowing to me, and I think it's just interesting. So that's why I hope someone will be like, "Hey, this is what the
yeah,
answer is."
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, this was really interesting. Like I said, now you got to remember, like I mentioned earlier, 1977. So this shit
Yes.
was happening 45 years ago, guys. For anyone out there that tunes in that didn't follow this stuff before, and you're wondering what's going on with these hearings and why all the crazy people are talking about UFOs and UAPs. First off, UFOs and UAPs does not mean aliens from outer space. It
Mm-hmm.
just means completely unidentified. You can't identify what you're looking at. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, but this stuff was happening 45 years ago as well. The same exact types of things that are happening today, and they were happening before 77.
Mm-hmm.
So, you really
Obviously,
have.
because in what was it, 67, they were like, they're not a threat. So obviously, we were
Yeah,
looking into them
yeah,
much, much more before that. Like, oh
yeah.
god. I
So the
mean, if they
biggest
listen to
thing,
any previous episodes, they'll hear some. So.
yeah. So the biggest thing on that I'm trying to maybe portray here is,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about, for people that might not be that into it and just think it's a bunch of BS. If you look at what's going on today, tons of people are seeing this stuff. Okay, um, no joke. I mean, I've told multiple stories of mine. One
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest ones, it was just a light, and to our current understanding, what this light did should be impossible. So that's how you're able to determine it's not a helicopter or an airplane. Drones,
Mm-hmm.
like military drones, those are included with airplanes. It's the same fucking
Mm-hmm.
thing, just without a pilot on
Pilot,
board.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's not confuse drones. I use the word drones. I'm talking about quadcopter. You go buy at Best Buy and fly it around at home. The good ones, whatever. Um, so if you look at the stuff and what's happening today, I could clearly see people saying, well, we probably hit a technological advancement and we just made this leap for, because it happens, and it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
It does happen. And that's probably what it is, and blah, 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 blah. So I pose the question, okay, fine. But what about 45 years ago in 1977? Do you think it was possible with any of the technology we had back then that we could have made some type of leap that would allow two lights, possibly objects, moving in the sky in Orange County to be up 355 miles north of Orange County in a 15-minute time span?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we
And
had the
back south
technology to do
again.
that? Yeah. And if anybody wants to say the SR-71, I call bullshit,
Yeah.
because to be able to do that, the SR-71 would have to be traveling just ridiculously fast, right? We know it tops
Mm-hmm.
out around Mach 3, probably a little bit more than that. That's fine. My point is, the SR-71 to do that has to be ridiculously high because it needs less friction from air. So it needs to be up at top altitude, which is high as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, traveling that fast, it would have been impossible for it to be seen around all of the counties in Orange County, Los Angeles County, Riverside County, Ventura, and all these cities here.
Mhm.
It would have been 100% impossible for people in Long Beach to see it going eastbound, and then Huntington Beach cops seeing it, which means it came down here and is coming back because it's Huntington Beach is right there on the coast as well. Um, it's impossible at that speed for the SR-71 to turn like that. Um,
Mhm.
if you don't believe me, go look it up. There's plenty of documentaries about the SR-71, which are very interesting, and they talk in there about the width of radius the SR-71 needs to turn when it's at that type of speed, and the amount of space. We're talking
Mm.
states. We're
Well,
talking states. If it's going like
well,
Mach 3, because you can't just fucking turn when you're going Mach 3,
I was not
right?
expecting
No,
states
you're
though.
you're you're talking about like a very gentle turn. You can't just. I mean, you're gonna break the
Well,
thing
I
up if you
get
just
that, but
fucking
like,
turn and burn it. you
how
know.
many states? Like, states could be plural. States could be
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends where
more.
you're at. If you're at the south tip of
True.
Florida, maybe the
Okay.
radius
Yeah.
will be to the top of Florida, right? But if you're in
Mm,
Georgia,
mm,
you're gonna cover 3 fucking states.
yeah. Yeah.
you know so it depends.
True. True. True.
But that's no joke. So in a 15-minute span for an SR-71 to be seen as two lights moving all
Mm-mm.
around the Orange County or the Southern California area, and then to be seen also up in the Sacramento County and Salinas, it'd be completely impossible.
Mm,
It wouldn't be able to do the turning that it would need to do for everyone down here to report that.
mm-hmm.
um, So, did we have the technological advancement for people to see this stuff? And I just brought the SR-71 up as an example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would have looked like two lights. I mean, they were saying another light following one. So you're talking about one light in front of another. Whereas if the SR-71 sitting there at Mach 3, I don't know what it looks like from the rear. What's coming out the back. I think they
Yeah.
have two different types of propulsion they use. So I don't know if you're going to be seeing flames or not. But
Hmm.
you'd be seeing two dots, and then two more
Mm-hmm.
behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't add up. It was just a hypothetical example to give you an idea. So, you know, if you're saying today, just a technological breakthrough, well, what about 1977? Technological breakthrough back then? I don't think so. Not without help.
Even
Not without
if
help.
like it was like something that we just recently reverse engineered and was testing out, they're like, oh, it usually takes like 50 years for the military to release it. Like, maybe
Well,
we haven't released it because we're stuck, because we are
they're they're not
cannot
gonna
figure something out.
they're not going to
Mm,
release it until it's old news, right? They're not going to
yeah.
release it until they have the next best and greatest thing out.
Mm,
And this thing is maybe still used, but isn't such a big deal. Then they might tell you about it, right?
mhm,
Um, However, if their latest and greatest is still based off that sort of technology and other countries don't quite have it yet, then they're still not going to release it. But yes, typically it's about that time frame that it
mhm,
takes before they say something, you know. So who knows? Technological advancement, definitely, if it's ours. Um, but then you have to question: is that technological advancement simply from our own brain power, or what people like David Grush are saying right now in these congressional hearings, reverse engineered technology from somewhere else?
mhm.
So I thought this story was interesting because of the time frame,
Yeah.
1977, and how many people saw it that were law enforcement everywhere reporting this, including civilians.
Mhm.
Um, just crazy, you know. So I think it's interesting. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, that's super interesting. It reminds me actually of the story about Michigan from I believe it was actually the 1960s, where like the 300 people saw the one,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
was like the entire like stretch of Michigan. Uh, like it's things like that that it's just another nail in my personal coffin of this is why I believe. Because,
Yeah.
like, why we haven't seen, like, I don't know, why there was two really big mass sightings, at least two, in like one decade, and we haven't had any in ours. It's like, show yourselves. But at the same time, I guess it's also probably because people are so in their phones that they don't look up versus then
Well,
they
it
had nothing
depends
to
where
put their
you're
faces
at.
into.
It depends where you're at. Like where I grew up was a coastal city.
True.
We had a marine layer a ton of the time. It seemed like whenever there was storms,
Mm,
that they created a clear circle around the area where I lived, where it kind of something with the air right there, right where it kind
mm,
of breaks it up, so it kind of goes
yeah.
around it. Or it was just an invisible UFO hovering over the county that breaking it up. Not, but um, you know, where I was at, I'm at sea level,
Mhm,
and there's a good chunk of the year there's not a really a view of the sky. Marine layer comes in 10, 20 miles depending, on the weather. And then every day, it backs out to the coast area. And sometimes it would back out and just hang like right there at the edge. Sometimes it would
hmm,
actually back out way over the ocean, almost to Catalina Island. It just depends on the weather, And, you know, it's also sea level. And where I grew up and lived most of my life, there just wasn't a good view of the sky simply because number one, there's no hills. So you're always looking across flat land.
mm,
There was no reason to really look up. But number
mhm,
two, I was in the middle of cities, surrounded by more cities. So all the light from that. And now where I'm at, I'm only at about 800 feet up. The amount of stars I can see is drastic from before. And I'm only like 20 miles away from where I grew up.
mhm.
I'm just at about 800 feet and inland a little bit. So it's all dependent on where you're at, too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, back in, like, that decades eras, like, they didn't have things to distract them from looking at their
Yeah,
surroundings like
true.
we do today. That's what I'm just getting
I'm
to.
sure. I'm sure
But
they did, but not. Who
mm,
knows?
not something like, I mean, like,
I'm
yeah,
sure they use different
magazines,
things to distract
newspapers,
themselves.
books, paper
People
copies
aren't
of
walking around
things.
reading books, but people are walking around reading cell phones. I always shoulder
Now,
bump them if
yeah.
they cross my line of travel.
My favorite thing to do recently is when people are like walking towards you and like they're standing, like they're walking next to another person and they're taking up the whole sidewalk. I just keep walking, and I like it's
Yeah.
really funny when people like collide into. They were like, "What the fuck?" And it's like you could have moved. You
You're like,
decided not
put
to.
your phone
It
away,
just
look up. You
no,
might see
no.
something for your next
Mhm.
TikTok.
Yeah, not no, it's
Right?
not even that. It's just like the fact that people think that I am going to move out of their way when they're taking up the
Yeah.
entire sidewalk. It's like you can move over.
Well, the UFOs move out of our way every time we try to chase them.
Yeah, they probably
Talk to Fravor.
they come down here, they see humanity, and they're just like, "Fuck that."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if what's going on is truly alien, and by alien I mean not from this planet,
Mm,
well, my argument to what you just said is, well, they sure as hell have been here a long time,
mhm,
visiting at least. So there's some interest. But on that note, I want to
mhm.
bring up something I didn't bring up when we talked about David Grush in that congressional hearing where they had Ryan Graves, David
Yeah.
Grush, and Commander David Fravor.
Mhm,
Number one, I made a mistake. Ryan Graves is not the one that went back out and filmed the Tic Tac after David Fravor saw it. He was something completely different. I forgot what it was, but it wasn't that. So my bad. But something I want to mention on what David Grush said when they asked him if any life was recovered from these supposedly crashed craft, right?
mhm,
And he
mhm.
said biologics were recovered. So that representative, I want to say it was Luna. I remember it was a female. I think it
It
was
was,
Luna, but
yeah.
I'm not
I
sure.
actually saw that
Okay.
on TikTok, and yes, it was
Okay.
female.
So he said biologics, and
Logics. Mhm.
she goes, okay, well, what does biologics mean? Human or non-human? And he goes, non-human biologics. She should have continued asking at least one, maybe two more questions
Mhm.
because of this. Let me give you a scenario. Before we ever sent man into space, before we even had a rocket to go up, we start building the rocket. Before we send a human into space, what do? We test the
We
rocket,
sent
we shoot it up
animals.
into space, get it back down. Okay, the rocket works, we can get it up there, we can get it back.
Mm.
Fine. What's the next step before sending a human into space? You just said it. A goddamn monkey. We've done
And
it.
a dog. The
And a
Russians
dog, which
sent
I
a
think
dog.
died, yeah. And what is a
I hate
monkey
that.
and what is a dog? They're biologics. More
Mm.
specifically, non-human
Non-human
biologics.
biologics.
We could have sent a fucking parasite into space. It's a non-human biologic.
Mm-hmm.
So she should have asked more questions because everything David Grush said just leaves everything open to speculation. And my other problem is this. And I was thinking along these lines, but this wasn't. I got this from somewhere else. Someone questioning it, and I was like, "Well, yeah, that's right, and that's what I was thinking. Why didn't I come up with that? What the fuck is he actually whistleblowing on? Because he really hasn't told you anything. So my question is, what the fuck is David Grush whistleblowing on? Because he hasn't given you really anything, has he? He's told you non-human biologics. That doesn't mean shit.
Mm-hmm.
She should have asked, okay, non-human biologics. Are those non-human biologics from planet Earth or somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
My guess, he would have said, well, that's something we're going to have to talk about in the skiff, or something along the lines of, well, I can't really get into that because of whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's my
Yeah.
guess where that would have gone, because that's what he did with every fucking other question and answer. He hasn't been a whistleblower, guys. I don't know how he got dubbed this. He's not blown the whistle. You have to remember, everything he is supposedly saying, public hearings and the skiffs, they've all been approved by his uppers. If that's been approved by management, that's not a whistleblower. A whistleblower is someone like, what's the guy's name? Snowden, Edward Snowden.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yep.
whistleblower. If what Grush is claiming is true from these people that he's interviewed, then what
I
he'd
was
be
gonna say
doing
everything
is
has
saying,
been told like third party to him.
yeah, it's all third party. And
Yeah.
he's saying he knows where these craft are and he's going to tell them, blah, blah, blah. Well, if he's a true whistleblower, what he'd
He
be
would have told
doing
them.
is saying all that shit in public.
Mm.
There wouldn't be any of this bullshit going on, and none of this shit would be approved for him to talk about. So it tells you something. You might be looking at a couple different scenarios, and I'm not claiming any of this is the case, but you really have to keep an open mind, and you got to use common fucking sense and critical thinking in this type of stuff. Number one, he hasn't given you anything,
Mhm.
right? Not anything substantive, and well,
Not anything new.
that means he's either, well, if it really has been approved by management, then he's either being lied to and he's getting played so that he can put it out there, or he knows exactly what the fuck he's doing and he's purposely playing everyone who's listening right now. You got to keep those scenarios in mind, just like Bob Lazar. You want to say you believe Bob Lazar, but you don't look at the fact that George Knapp proved he lied about Caltech, MIT, and working for Los Alamos, not at Los Alamos.
Right.
He proved Lazar's a fucking liar. David Grush, I've watched numerous videos now of professionals that are, they look at reading people, their faces, their gestures,
language,
every
people's,
fucking
yeah.
movement, every form of their speech, their words, everything. Almost every single one has found some sort. They're not 100% on this guy. They've found plenty of what they consider is possibly deception. You know, I mean, you got to go with the facts. And I'm not saying this guy's lying, but I'll tell you, when he talks, the way he talks, I'm not 100% on this guy. I don't trust him either. The way he talks, he comes off as someone who's a talker and is bullshitting you. every person I've known or come across that's been like that, same type of shit. You guys do it
Says a
too.
lot of
Oh, you
nothing
you
with
know,
a whole bunch of words.
yeah, but there's more to it. You can tell by how they're talking, the way they say things, how
Mm-hmm.
they say things, what they say, and
Mm-hmm.
we all do it. You just do it subconsciously. You don't even recognize it, and that you're doing it, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna be friends with that person, whatever the deal is. So, I just wanted to mention that because made a couple mistakes when we did that show, but the stuff about Grusha I think is very important because it's what it looks
Yeah.
like, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah, so
I
1977,
sure do.
guys,
Yeah.
we had shit going on back
Man.
then.
Mm-hmm.
Proven, it's on record. Law enforcement. So, what you gonna do with that? Hey, make sure you fucking like, share, and subscribe. Especially subscribe, man. let's
Yes.
bump it up. But comment, um, like, oh, you guys hear it all the time from everyone else. Um, just do it. If you got a personal story of your own, you've seen lights in the sky similar to this, similar to our stories. You think you might have had a Bigfoot encounter or abducted by aliens. You have family that is generations down from people in a lost civilization. They have stories that were handed down. Well,
That would be
if
cool
the
as shit.
civilization was lost, how would shoot us an email with those stories? obscuredr1@gmail.com. We want to hear them, but we also want to put them out there for you. We'll
Mm-hmm.
do shows on them and tell your stories for you. We know a lot of people don't want to go public about their stories or tell their friends, family, whatever. We'll tell them on here. Keep you anonymous. If you want to come on the show, we'll have you on the show. It's cake for you. You ain't got to do nothing but tell your story. It's easy. Getting on is easy. You can do it audio only, or you can show your face, or you can show your face and be anonymous. Up to you. However you want to do it. We don't care. We'd rather have you tell your story, and we can have a discussion about it. obscuredr1@gmail.com. Bells and whistles. Stevie.
Hit that bell to be notified of every single new episode that we drop every Friday at 5 Central, 8 Eastern. Not Central, Pacific. 5 Pacific. I
Pacific. Yeah,
fuck this
5
up
Pacific.
every time.
5
5
Pacific. That's all
Pacific,
right.
8 Eastern. At least I got the times right. And
Yep.
also we do sometimes drop a couple of them during the week, like the congressional hearing. We had a couple that dropped like immediately afterwards. So if it's gonna be like newsworthy, we'll probably give you a little extra during the week, but definitely make sure to look forward to us every Friday.
Bling bling. True that.
A
Hey,
ding
with
ding.
that, yeah, with that, before I leave, I'm gonna go outside and look up at the goddamn sky, and you should too. We
Look, I
are
just
out of here.
spent a
Oh,
whole weekend in Tennessee, so I spent a lot of time looking at that sky.
and you saw
Mhm.
nothing.
I saw the most beautiful star-ridden sky I've seen in a very long time.
Was that a satellite that went by or not? Starlink? Who knows? All
You'll
right,
never know.
we are out of here. Peace.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back with us often for new episodes. Feel free to drop a comment and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Obscured Reality.